What's up? Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and I have two of my favorite panelists joining in today to talk about my disdain for Taylor Swift. We'll talk about that later on in the show, but we do have some important topics, including Donald Trump making an ass out of himself with his misogynistic comments toward Megyn Kelly. And then later on, we're going to talk about police officers using what could be considered a crafty strategy to get drug dealers to turn themselves in. Is it really crafty? That's up for debate. We will discuss it with our awesome panelists. So who are they? We have Hank Chen, who is an actor and comedian. Hank, good to have you back.
Great to be back.
And we also have Becca Frucht, who's a news correspondent and a regular fill-in on the TYT network. You guys should check her out this week on the Young Turks. All right, so let's get to the first topic. Donald Trump keeps digging himself in a deeper hole, and this time it has to do with misogyny. Well, during the first GOP debate of this presidential election cycle, apparently he didn't like the way Megyn Kelly asked him really tough questions. So as a result, he responded to her during an interview and said some pretty terrible things. Take a look.
I don't have a lot of respect for Megyn Kelly. She's a lightweight. And, she came out there reading her little script and trying to, be tough and be sharp. And when you meet her, you realize she's not very tough and she's not very sharp. She's Zippo. Well, I just don't respect her as a journalist. So I have, she gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
So there's so much to discuss, but of course that very last part of his statement got the most press attention. He was trying to imply that she was on her period and she was being emotional. She was just asking you normal questions, especially considering the fact that you're trying to run for president of the United States. You should expect tough questions. So I find it very ironic that he calls Megyn Kelly a lightweight when he pretends as though he's a heavy hitter. You're not a heavy hitter. You're a piece of shit who can't answer a simple question about your own freaking platform. But I want to open this up to the panel. Before I get to that, though, Megyn Kelly did respond to him, and he did try to clarify what he meant through a tweet. He tweeted, regarding Megyn Kelly, quote, "You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever." Apparently, he meant to say nose, which I'm not buying for a second. Just got on with thought. Now, Megyn Kelly does not want to apologize to him for her hard-hitting questions. She says, apparently, Mr. Trump thought the question was unfair and I was attacking him. I felt he was asked a tough but fair question. We agree to disagree. I certainly will not apologize for doing good journalism. Becca, is she doing good journalism? Make your point.
Oh, I think she totally is. And as my boy Obama would say, the audacity of idiocy is what we're seeing with Donald Trump, who is a total chump. There is no question about it.
He's a dummy.
He's a dummy. He's a dummy. He's a flash in the presidential primary pan. And I think his 1% attitude is really not going to resonate with 99% of this country, even if they are currently amused by the sheer commitment to douchery that he exudes at all times. I mean, he's a misogynist. The kind of language he was using is so petty. Her little script and her...
yeah.
It's not even interesting misogyny. At least be creative.
Well, he can't be creative, which is why when he gets into Twitter feuds, his #1 comeback is, "You're a dummy." He's so weak
so lame.
in every way.
It's just baseless, hateful, backwards prejudice,
Yes.
and he is trying to trump up a superficial news cycle.
Yes.
And anyone with like half a brain is going to be able to tell that that's what he's doing.
Now, Hank, are there any redeeming qualities? Make your point.
Oh my God, entertainment value is out of control. Like this, I mean, he's gotten me interested in politics again, really, because I can't believe that this is going to go on until November of next year.
Right.
And let's be honest, everyone knows that he's not going to win the presidency. So I'm really like, hang on, Trump, and stand there for as long as you can, because I think he's getting a whole new generation of voters to get in, just as Obama inspired a lot of people to register, whether they loved him or hate him. Trump is going to do the same, and it's always great for young people to get active in their politics.
The last presidential cycle or election cycle was boring. I mean, I was bored to tears with Obama as the incumbent and Mitt Romney as the boring Republican candidate. And so it is nice to be entertained, and I think more and more people are paying attention. So
they're like hate watching the debate
or love watching, because he inspires a lot of passion one way or the other.
He inspires a lot of bigots, absolutely.
Sure.
All right, so here's the personal question for the story. What's the worst insult anyone has ever said to you? I'm actually going to start off with this. It's funny because the worst insult that I ever got now seems tame in retrospect. A guy once called me a cunt, and I was like, how dare you? And now it's like, really, cunt? Like, you can't come up with something better?
No, girlfriend, take the term back. I think we should celebrate cunt. Yeah, I'm a fucking cunt.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it.
Yeah, so I don't even
See you
know.
next Tuesday.
Strong. Hello.
I think the worst insult is if someone says something about my family, but no one ever really goes there. So I guess cunt is the worst insult, and that's not too bad. Becca, what about you?
I had a woman accuse me of cheating, so being a cheater in high school, in particular because I just won this very prestigious scholarship that I was very proud of all the work I'd done, and then she went to the administration at my high school and tried to insinuate that I had somehow cheated.
Oh my
God. And I'm like, you can't, I mean, it's
What
one
a
thing.
salty bitch.
Yeah, salty. And just.
What a cunt.
Yes. Really, and
Salty cunt.
Like just the sourest, this, so sour those grapes. I was like, ooh, pucker face. And because it was
Salty cunt.
Yeah. And because it was completely unfounded in any sort of reality, nothing came of it. But I was so insulted.
Yeah.
Because I knew
Because you worked for it.
Yeah,
and someone
busted
was
my
trying to
cunty ass.
Yeah,
Right.
someone's trying to take that away from you.
No.
Unacceptable. What about you, Hank?
Someone once told me that I was nothing, and that really affected me, even more than any
That's
racial slur or gay slur.
Yeah.
And that's what you would gravitate towards. But I think it's really difficult to kind of be told that you're not worth, that you have no value. Because I think we all want to feel like we matter.
Right.
So
That is pretty hard.
to get that at a young age was like, oh,
You matter, honey. You matter.
thank you, baby.
Bless your heart.
I think
Everyone's
the
so
worst.
good looking on
I
this
think the
panel.
worst. Agreed. I mean, I love how I'm saying that about myself. So, you're so good
No, she's like, I guess Hank has a point. I am good looking. Yeah.
I think the harshest insult I ever said to anyone was, "You are not a good person."
Oh.
And this person was obsessed with being a good person. So when I said that, he was very hurt. But sometimes you got to hit them where it hurts.
People,
Sometimes
you
gotta
know
go for
what
those
buttons-
low blows.
I'm sure he deserved it.
You know
He
what buttons
did.
Probably.
He did.
Okay.
All right. Well, tell me what you guys think. What is the worst insult that you've ever received? And also, do you think Trump has any redeeming qualities? Do you want to defend him? It would be really fascinating to hear a defense. So comment in the section below and tell us what you think. You don't have to defend him. You can say whatever the hell you want in the comment section because there's no one policing it. We do read them, we do respond to them, and we love hearing from you. So we'll see you soon. Miley Cyruss is not a fan of Taylor Swift, it seems. During a recent interview for Marie Claire, she was talking about how there seems to be a double standard when it comes to critiquing Miley Cyruss versus Taylor Swift. Now, in her Wrecking Ball music video, of course, she got a lot of heat because she was naked, she had her boobies out, and I thought it was fine. I actually really liked the Wrecking Ball song as well. She also got some heat for twerking, but I think anyone should get heat for twerking, especially when they don't have the body for twerking. Anyway, nonetheless. So Taylor Swift has a song that I hate, Bad Blood, and in her music video, she's apparently like a little violent, and so Miley Cyruss called her out on it. Here's what she had to say. I don't get the violence revenge thing. That's supposed to be a good example, and I'm a bad role model because I'm running around with my titties out. I'm not sure how titties are worse than guns. Well, Miley, I just want to clarify that you guys are both pretty bad role models. So don't worry, okay? The double standard might exist. Maybe Taylor Swift does get applauded for what she does while you get criticized, but you guys are both terrible role models, if you ask me. Now, she also was upset because Kendrick Lamar's collaboration in the song talks about LSD, and apparently Miley Cyruss has gotten in trouble for talking about drugs in the past as well. So here's some more from Miley Cyruss. She says, people in this industry think, I just got to keep getting more money. What are you getting more money for? You probably couldn't even spend it all in this lifetime. People get more famous so they can make their brand more famous, so they can sell more shit, so that they can make more money. It's a never-ending cycle. Getting more money, having more hits, being the lead in the movie. Those things might stimulate you, but they don't make you happy. I've experienced it all already, and I'm telling you firsthand, it doesn't. So lots of really interesting insight from her. Hank, what do you think about all this? Make your point.
You know what? You can't blame a girl for jumping onto a trend. And I think that's what both of them did. I mean, a few years ago, people were like, oh my God, Miley's losing it. Amanda Bynes is losing it. And I think Amanda Bynes has lost it, but for a while I thought that
It's a fair judgment.
I thought it was all performance art. You know what I mean? I was like, they're just doing what they can to jump onto the trends and to exploit their fame. And on a smaller level, I mean, look at this show, right? So we pick hot topics, we discuss them to get views on videos. I mean, everyone.
No, we're doing it to enrich people.
Well,
Don't get twisted.
Well, we do. You know, that does happen with TYT. But I mean to say, I feel like everyone is trying to, in some way, stay relevant. And in this case, that's what Miley and Taylor are doing, including Miley's hate at Taylor. Currently, Taylor's hot, so if you throw shade at her, you're going to get press.
What do you make of this, Becca? Make your point.
I think Miley came in like a wrecking ball. And this interview had to do it. I enjoy Miley. I'm more of a Miley vibe than a Taylor, personally, because I'll take Miley's real-ass titties out wherever she wants to put them over Taylor's seemingly fake-ass friendship is magic vibes any day. I mean, because 1 minute Taylor Swift is on Instagram all like DIY ladies party, cake decorating, like Pinterest exploded, that vibe. And then the next she's doing Bad Blood, which was kind of, I thought, sort of, there were parts of her, she just shoved every famous person she could think of into a tiny outfit with like a big gun.
Yes.
And that, I thought, was
very
sort of a cheap
violent.
ploy. It was sort of a cheap ploy to get people to watch the video, which people did.
Yes.
And again, can't blame a girl for jumping on a trend, but I still think that even though Miley is messy and she's glamorized the ganja to a point that's a little over the top, but look, potheads are peaceful, I'll take it.
Yeah.
She is authentically exploring issues of sexism, of ageism.
Yeah.
She's trying to work through this nonprofit that she founded. She's working through some stuff.
Yeah.
And we've watched her do it. And I think she's right. She can actually speak to achieving all this fame at a very young age and also understanding, the consequences of it.
Oh, there are consequences of
So
it.
I enjoy her, and I would much prefer to have some QT with Miley over Taylor. And that's just my personal. I think Taylor's generally harmless, but I don't think it's fair to call her more of a role model than Miley.
Miley keeps it real. She keeps it real.
Yeah.
Is what I
Miley's
feel.
being Miley.
So here's the question for the story. How much money would buy you happiness, Hank?
I thought about this, Anna, and I had this like, enough to keep a roof over my head, and I thought, you know what, I want to give her a real number because that's more tangible.
Oh, okay.
$10,000 a month right now at this point in my life would be enough. That would cover my living expenses, my car payment, my travel.
You live in the high life,
and I would have some to put away for saving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm looking at my budgets. I'm really good. And actually, here, let's hope.
Are you going to pull out your Splitwise app?
I live on points, and I really make my money stretch for me. And this happened after I paid off all my student loans, and I pay them off using
for
credit
you.
cards. Since then, I have redeemed so many rewards and points and all that stuff. So $10,000 might seem
like
it's just
Hank's
an infomercial. This is an infomercial right now on credit cards
Hank's
usage.
hacks to
I
life.
don't recommend that you guys pay your student loan debt on credit cards.
No, I paid it all off.
Oh, you paid it all
Yeah.
off, and then you started going nuts with the credit cards.
No. What I made enough money to pay off my loans. I put it through to clarify. I put it through credit cards.
Smart.
And got points.
So I stretched my dollar. And I mean, my credit score is like through the roof too.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I'm sorry. This is a whole nother lesson.
Yes.
I'm about to Susie Orman this shit. It's really
do you
great.
Want Dave Ramsey to give you financial advice or Hank Chen? Okay, I think it's more attractive and more fun. So just think about it.
It's all organized. I have a whole chart and spreadsheet. I know my Delta miles from my American miles. Yeah. Okay.
I'm obsessed with finances. I don't think anyone
fun.
checks their
It's
checkings
fun.
account more than I do. I check it like twice
Yeah.
a day just to make sure
Yeah.
people aren't like stealing my
All right,
information.
I need to get on board with
Yeah.
Hank's hacks to finances because
Your everyday
I'm-
spend, your gas spend, you can earn double rewards, you can earn cash back, you can get
Who
free
are you
flights.
right now?
It's all legal. It feels like you're stealing, but it's all legal. It's so great.
Becca, how
Sorry.
much? How much money?
Oh my God.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So I don't really deal in hard numbers, hence why I have never even made a spreadsheet, and probably why I'm completely unstable financially. Whatever it would take to take care of my family long term, like that. And I don't really know what that number is, but I think it's somewhere in the millions probably to feel comfortable, like taking care of my family, buying a ranch, having some horses, and freedom to travel. And those are the things I need to be happy.
Becca's like, get me out of Hollywood. It's like, let
It's
me
true.
roam.
I want the ranch, I want the horses, I want to take care of my family, and I want to travel.
Oh, I love that. I guess I'm happy now, right? Like, I'm not making a ton of money. I'm living in a one-bedroom apartment and splitting the rent with my boyfriend. Like, I'm not living this like fabulous life, but I feel really happy now. So if the amount I'm making now lasts for the rest of my life, I'd be cool. If I could make a little more, then would I be more happy? Probably not. I gotta be honest with you. Like, if I
Right.
lived in a big house, would I be happy? Probably not. Like, the things that make me happy include my mom's health and my boyfriend, and also whether or not I can afford really fancy dinners time to time. That's it. That's all I care about.
No, I'm not unhappy right now, but I bet I'd be a little happier with a horse.
With some horses, yeah. And a ranch outside of Hollywood.
And a cowboy.
Well,
is
Hello.
it too much to ask?
Hello.
Is it
Tell
too
us
much?
what you guys think, though. I want to know how much money you would have to make a year in order to be happy. Come up with a realistic number. Don't tell me like $1 billion. And also, what do you think about Miley Cyrus' critique of Taylor Swift? And tell me what you think of the song Bad Blood. Because even though I really like Taylor Swift's last album, that song is so melody challenged. Like, she doesn't even try. She made a really deep cut. That's my favorite part of the song because it's so bad. Anyway, tell us what you guys think. Comment in the section below. We love you. Mwah. See you soon. Target has made a controversial decision to get rid of gender-based labeling. Okay, now this all kind of happened after they caught a little bit of heat for a picture that went viral. So let's take a quick look at the picture. And it was posted by Abby Betchel, and apparently it had to do with play sets, or building sets, I should say. So they had building sets, and then they had specified girls building sets. I don't know what that means. Does it mean that the building set is pink? Why?
Basically.
Is it customized to women? So people were upset about this, and then Target was like, you know what? We're going to be super progressive, and we're just going to get rid of all gender labeling. So here's what they said about that. Over the past year, guests have raised important questions about a handful of signs in our stores that offer product suggestions based on gender. We know that shopping preferences and needs change, and as guests have pointed out, in some departments like toys, home, or entertainment, suggesting products by gender is unnecessary. So the picture that got attention only was retweeted 2,000 times. Like, I know that sounds like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, 2,000 isn't that big of a deal. But I applaud them for listening to a small number of people who are concerned about this. Now, the question is this a good idea? Now, I think that gender is something that's actually hardwired, and I think certain components of it are influenced by our environment. And so I don't think that this is going to change some kid's preference of what he or she wants to play with, but I like that it kind of creates an environment where they get to make that decision on their own and they won't get scolded for it and there won't be the same stigma attached to it. So I think we are moving toward a more progressive ideology when it comes to all this, but maybe you guys agree or disagree. Hank, make your point.
I think that what Target did was great. I think that they're really respecting and listening to their audience. But that being said, and I hope I don't get any kind of backlash for saying this, but I saw that sign and I wanted to know more, and I didn't on the onset think that it was so offensive. Because once again, it's sort of like, is it just pink, or like what are you putting in there? Is it like you know, Barbie branded Legos? Because the thing is, like, those are toys that guys don't want to play with. So really, it's like an organizational thing. To me, the equivalent is like, oh, this is the left-handers aisle, right?
Yeah.
And people are gonna be like, whoa, we're the same as everybody. It's like, no, if this is what you're looking for, this is where you're gonna find it. It's just a big store.
Yeah,
I think.
Like, honestly, what you're saying isn't unreasonable at all. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe I'm gonna get heat for this, but I never really had a problem with the gender labeling anyway.
Yeah.
But I do see the upside of what Target is now doing. So I guess I wouldn't say I'm torn. I just see the perspectives of both sides in this case. What about you, Becca? Make your point.
I'm a little more sensitive to the idea of gender labeling. I think Target knows about the building blocks it takes to create customer loyalty, and I really agree.
Good pun,
yeah, I agree that they've won me over, certainly, by being open and accessible to their customers, especially on an issue that is right now very trendy, in fact, and that everyone is sort of discussing. It's very controversial. But I think that when children are very impressionable at a young age, the kinds of cues that we give them are very important. And something even as simple as, like, girls play with pink blocks or blocks that look maybe less hardcore than the dude blocks, whatever that is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's I don't know exactly. We didn't see the pictures of it, but that's why companies like Goldie Blocks and some of these, they're focused on bringing women into science and mathematics and engineering. So those cues happen at an early age, and I just think we should never discourage a child from any intuitive passion or interest.
Yes, I agree with
and
you
you
on that.
can do that inadvertently, even with subtle signs.
But what I would argue is that it's not necessarily the job of Target, but the job of toy manufacturers to put products out there that motivate and encourage girls to get into things like science or math or whatever it is. And I know that when I was a kid playing with toys, a lot of them were based on like, oh, you can dress your doll up in this, or oh, look, here's a little playhouse.
It's branding.
And
you just assume that that's, as a girl, if you're fed that just inadvertently your whole life, you just assume that as a woman, I'm supposed to be interested in that. Right. You know, I do think gender can certainly be seen as hardwired, but it's the idea of gender fluidity and I think the social pressures around it are real.
Yes. All right, so here's the question for the story. What's a gender-specific activity you were told to do when growing up?
I was really lucky. I never got pushed in a certain direction. If I decided I wanted to cut all my hair off like China Phillips and be an androgynous child model, which I did for a little while, my family was like, fine.
Let's see that photo.
Y'all will die. Y'all will die. I decided I wanted a horseback ride. They let me do that. I played lacrosse. I did a lot of impromptu karaoke in the middle of my house. Whatever I decided I wanted to do, I wasn't ever really steered in a direction in an aggressive way.
So you had super progressive parents that
were
like,
very
do what you need
cool.
to do.
And they just weren't heavy-handed in general. Some parents are like, I really need you to be a soccer star. I really need you to do X, Y, or Z. They sort of just let me steer the boat a lot.
Yeah.
And obviously there's whatever general social infrastructure I was raised in, being in the South and being a woman. I'm sure those things influenced me. But I never got like hardcore pressed.
That's awesome. What about you, Hank? I feel like you and I might have had similar backgrounds with like immigrant parents that are a little hardcore.
Yeah, a little. Well, yes, to that point, my dad, when he was growing up in Taiwan, was very athletically, adept, equipped, whatever. So he tried to get me into we're talking basketball and baseball.
How'd that go?
It was literally me running away from the balls, which I don't do anymore.
I was going to say,
No.
I was like, he better not be serving that up, and he's not going to just hit it home.
No. So when I was little, I used to run away from balls. But every summer there was basketball camp and like the baseball camp I couldn't even handle. Like
now you would be excited to go to that camp.
That's
now
true.
You'd be all about those balls.
But yeah, right. Yeah. Coming at me.
Oh my God. I don't even know how to follow that up. My mom made me clean the house every Saturday.
That's just straight up labor. That's not even gender norms. That's just labor.
But it was hilarious because my brother would like sleep until 1.
That's
and then
bullshit.
I'd get up at like 8 and my mom would be like, now it is time for you to dust the living room and the china set. Okay? You have to learn to be clean. And so yeah, that's what I did every Saturday morning.
Oh my gosh, my mom knew. And it was, I think there was a little bit of comparative advantage at my house. My mom's a great cook. My sister's a great cook. I just sat in the kitchen, provided color commentary. So my ass doesn't even know how to fry a damn egg. But they were like, just don't even get her near the kitchen. If you act like a big enough of if you just are totally useless enough in the kitchen,
they'll just let it go.
They'll let you. They're just like, get out.
They don't want you breaking stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, my parents' parenting taught me how to be OCD, and I'm like constantly cleaning my apartment as a result of that. I don't know. I guess that's a good thing.
Did they ever use the china? Sidebar. Do they ever use the china? There's always a set of dishes that are so important. It's like we never fucking use
It's like the beautiful china that's there for show. Yes. We use it time to time, but very rarely.
Once a year.
I want to know what you guys think, though. So comment in the section below. Tell us what you think about Target. I know that it's a controversial issue. I know that the majority of you watching are men, and you probably think this is ridiculous. But try to be respectful. Comment in the section below and tell me what you think about this. Share some constructive criticism, some interesting points. We do read your comments and we do respond to them. We'll see you guys soon. Have a good one. Jordan Blackburn is a 20-year-old guy who does what a lot of young people do. He likes to go to music festivals, and unfortunately, during one recent music festival in England, he took drugs without knowing exactly what they were. As a result, he found himself in a coma, recuperating in a hospital. So his 18-year-old friend, unfortunately, did not get so lucky. Christian Pei died at the hospital, and now Blackburn says that he has survivor's guilt. Here's what he also has to say about this incident. You never realize until it's too late. You never think at that moment it is never going to happen to you, but unfortunately you learn the hard way. You can never change the past, but you can always change the future. It's just trying to make a positive thing out of something really, really negative. A total of 14 people were treated after that music festival, and 4 people were actually arrested on suspicion of possession of drugs with intent to sell. This story actually really strikes a nerve for me because I went to Coachella a year and a half ago, had the best time, but I got really sick because of how hard I was on my body. Nice euphemism there, right? And so you do have to be really careful because since drugs are illegal and since they're not regulated, you really have no idea what you're taking. And I think my biggest PSA to you guys is, if you're gonna go to a music festival and someone sells you Molly, understand that it is not pure MDMA, okay? It's just ecstasy rebranded. You have no freaking idea what's in it. So please be careful. Make sure you take proper precautions. You can buy testing kits online. Buy the testing kits. Make sure you test what you're gonna take and know what you're doing to yourself because this is very dangerous. That's my point, but I wanna hear from you guys. Hank, make your point.
Oh, well, I mean, I think your PSA is incredible. What Jordan did to himself, he's really lucky that he made it out alive. And I think it's a very, very hard lesson to learn when someone close to you did the exact same behavior as you and isn't here to be able to share their story. So
Exactly.
I think I applaud him for sharing that photograph because hopefully doing that will save lives of other idiots.
Becca,
I know.
make your point.
I was really nervous when I clicked on this link because I feared that this was going to be a young person flippantly celebrating that they ended up in a coma after doing drugs, like YOLO como kind of thing. But that is how flippant and frivolous the pill popping culture has become.
Yes.
Because it's like, yo, I'll take whatever, I don't care, I don't know what's in it, but we're at a music festival. I've certainly been to many music festivals as well, and you get in this vibe of like, oh, we're all just in this together, and everybody's like, you know, looking out for each other. But you're right, nobody knows what is really in all the recreational pharmaceuticals that are floating around.
Right, and also you become trusting to a fault because there is this not awkward, but it's kind of an awesome sense of community, and there's like a hippie vibe going on.
Sure, you
and that's
want to
definitely
buy
right.
into it. And
Yeah.
I've done that. I went to a festival up in Napa, Bottle Rock, and it was mostly just people passing around joints, which tends to be like a little more laid back. But I just like quickly partook and somebody passing one along. And later looking back when I think about what that guy looked like, I'm like, yeah, he kind of looked like a pedophile. So that was a bad idea. And my friend even was like, I can't believe you smoked that guy's joint. And then like 5 seconds later, I was like, yo, that was some Hunger Games chronic. I literally was like, I'm in the arena. And I like.
Balls are coming at me! Balls are coming at me! Ah!
I flipped the fuck out. I flipped out, and my friend was like, "Oh my god!" I had to go to fucking timeout in the bleachers, and just like I was combing. And if I'm catatonic and don't talk for an hour, it's freaky because all I do is talk. So I was just like.
That must have been a really strong indica or something.
It was, and I don't know. It could have been laced with some sort of hallucinogenic. Again, I don't know what happened, but my friends were like, "You were in the Hunger Games for an hour."
I've hallucinated
So.
from marijuana before.
Yeah, it can
Sometimes
happen.
if a strain is strong enough, it could do some crazy stuff to you. Hank, what about you? I want to hear about your indiscretions.
You know what? I'm giggling because your stories are so funny, but I wanted to hit another angle, which is
hit that angle.
I'm gonna hit that angle. You know I will. That's right. I was just. It's never not worth it to not live your life honestly, and I will say when I first came out when I was in New York and I was first exploring the gay life, and it got back to me that someone that I knew contracted HIV. And so I was like, and then on top of that, like a friend of mine had fallen in love with this guy and they were now dating. And so I was sad for the guy who contracted it, and then I was afraid for my friend who was now sleeping. Yeah, he knew, but I felt like he was very much in this like, well, like the risks are very little with it. I was just like, oh my God, but it's not zero. I mean, that really put a shocker into my system. And I think like there are kids in this generation now who are watching the bareback porn and seeing all the drugs on the market. And I'm like, yo, I got 2 words for you, okay? AIDS quilt, right? Like there's a whole generation of people that we lost a couple of decades ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of young kids who are coming into their sexuality on their own now don't remember any of it. I barely remember it.
Yeah,
So,
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So the question for this story was, what life lesson did you learn the hard way? I feel like you guys both kind of answered.
Yes.
So I'll give my answer, and then we got to wrap it up. I would say the hardest lesson that I learned was that you shouldn't text and drive, right? And also drink and drive. Recently, my boyfriend's brother's girlfriend died in a terrible car accident because she was drinking and she got behind the wheel and she was young. She was like 21 or 22.
That's awful.
So that was a hard lesson. It really like shook me to my core. So be really, really careful when you're behind the wheel. That was definitely a tough lesson that I had to learn. Anyway, guys, I know that was a serious topic, but we still want to hear from you. Comment in the section below and tell us a lesson that you had to learn the hard way, and share your festival stories. Maybe you've been to some music festivals and experienced some things. We want to hear from you, so comment in the section below, and we'll see you soon. A sheriff's office in Kentucky is trying to find an unconventional way to get drug dealers to turn themselves in, or turn one another in. So they have posted a flyer that I find hilarious and comical. The flyer claims that the cops can help take their competition down, okay? So the flyer asks where the competition lives, their phone number, their hours of operation, and what vehicle they drive. Pat Melton, the sheriff of Franklin County, Kentucky, got this idea from a similar post in a sheriff's office in Georgia. Now, it's unclear as to whether or not this strategy worked in Georgia, but I like that they're trying to use an unconventional way of getting people to turn one another in. I mean, think about it. You want to turn your competition in, right? But a lot of times criminals don't talk to police because they don't want to rat people out. So I don't know if this is going to be successful. Also, please use your resources on something other than drugs, because I'm sure there's actual violent crime happening that you should focus on. Becca, make your point.
I adore this flyer. Yeah. I think it's charmingly vintage. Like, was it made in Microsoft Paint or like it's just
the font is amazing.
Oh,
right?
like it's literally
so classic.
It looks like something that you put together like in middle school when you were like, come to the meeting after school. It's that same sort of vibe. I think it's hilarious. I do like when cops show a sense of humor. There's so much bad press out there right now, very serious bad press.
Yes.
It's nice to see something lighthearted. That shows their humanity, of course, and that they can poke fun at themselves, even though they are in this authority position. And who knows? I mean, maybe it could work. Maybe they'll get lucky in Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, you'll never know if you never try, right?
Exactly.
What about you, Hank? Make your point.
This was made by someone on desk duty who was pissed off. Can you imagine? Can you imagine like him like looking for the clip art of the leaf and then like dragging it onto the document,
or maybe he cut it out
and then placing it. He was like, no, it's too cluttered there. Let me move it down.
Let's put it back up.
Let me. I mean, but
Please,
think about it.
So good.
Think of the artistry that went into that flyer. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But I think them posting it, whoever's in charge of the social media, look, they got what they came for. Oh, look at that. There's the bat. I mean, it's
Report
actually
your competition
beautiful.
to us.
But I love that
They found the
used
clip
a
art.
marijuana leaf. They're like, you know what? Fuck the heroin.
They-
Like, I would have used a fucking syringe. Why are you using a marijuana leaf? That looks lovely. That's like motivating me to go smoke right
and
now.
who's gonna turn in? I mean,
Look at that cursive. I mean, this is very much like sixth grade
Right?
talent show.
I wish it was
font.
Comic Sans.
It really is beautiful, but
or
it's
Wing
in a really
Gangs.
classic way. But I mean to say is, I think they got what they were looking for, which is publicity on the issue. They put it out there.
Yeah.
We're talking about it, and
And now I'm craving a joint.
Yeah.
So it's a great job. All right,
last story. We're good.
Here's the question. Which crowd were you associated with when you were in grade school, Becca? I'm dying to know, actually.
Yeah. Right?
This is fun. So I loved high school. And I probably had one of those experiences straight out of like a teen movie. You know, I had such a blast, and I was a bit of a floater. Like I could hang with the cool kids. I like felt very comfortable in that scene, but I also was a hellish overachiever. So I could like geek out and be in National Honor Society and do all that stuff. And I was like completely over-involved to the point that my mom was like, please stop. Like even she was like, this is ridiculous. And I also would have the artsy kids over to like film stuff in my backyard. I tried to like just bounce around a lot and not, stick myself into a certain clique, which sometimes is tough because when you're floating, then you don't always, necessarily have like your hardcore crew that you always roll with. But I had a couple like very close, I actually had more guy friends than girlfriends. I found that I didn't connect with women as much.
That's not surprising. It's like the bullet and stuff. Look at that. Yeah.
But like women, I think, I didn't connect with a lot of women until I got into college and felt like, oh, you're more like me. Like I see more of myself in you. We have similar interests and like our idea of what we want out of life. Not to like disparage my high school, because the ones that
They were just small-minded.
It's just,
I'm just kidding.
but the girlfriends from high school that I came in touch with are my they're my roll dogs for life. But yeah, I kind of like to bounce around and keep it like fresh with the Breakfast Club. Like let me do the whole thing.
I gotta say, I was pretty much in the same category. I had a group of girls that were bullying me, so I didn't hang with them. But for the most part, I think I was a bit of a floater too. There was only maybe a year or two in high school where I specifically focused on the Cholita community, and so we would
you were in that?
I was a huge Cholita.
Oh my God, your hoops must have been way bigger, girl. Those hoops have definitely.
Scrunchy ponytail.
These are
They
remnants of my past, okay? But they were definitely bigger back in the day.
Love that. That's why
Yes.
your eyeliner is always on point, because you
Oh,
just
I
knew
had a lot
Yeah,
of practice.
the mascara,
Practice.
yeah, pulled back.
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait.
What about you, Hank?
I floated through with the honors track, if that makes any sense. So I did my school had the International Baccalaureate program.
Oh my God, IB is rough.
It was rough. It was a bonding experience. It felt like
It's too much.
felt like I was in the Big Brother house with those people. But it was my school didn't kick that in until 11th grade. And so, but 9th and 10th sort of, you're on that honors track that sets you up to whether you want to decide to go into that or not. And I feel like once I was in there, because I was always a little bit of an oddball. I still am. But people were like, what is happening with this kid? But once you're in there and it's your crew of 40, 45, 50, you kind of are like, hey guys, we're all
in
in
this
this.
together.
Yeah. And there's that mutual respect, and it's oh, you're as smart as I am kind of a thing. So that was kind of cool. I feel like the tail end of high school was fine. It was enjoyable.
Nice.
Yeah.
I bought in hook, line, and sinker to the high school experience. I literally was I'm gonna run for Miss Providence and do stuff that even my family was like, oh my God, why are you waving from a float right now?
I feel like I've learned a lot about you guys, but you know what I want? I want to learn about you, okay? So comment in the section below and tell us what you did when you were in grade school, which crew were you hanging out with, and also, do you think this strategy by the sheriff's department is going to work? Do you think these drug dealers are going to turn one another in? I don't know. We're going to see. So comment in the section below and tell us what you think. All right, guys, that does it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so, because we love subscribers and we love engaging with you guys. That's the whole point of the point. Now, I want to give you guys an opportunity to plug some of the work you're doing. Hank, Chen, let them know where to find you.
Find me on the Twitter at HanksterChen. Find me on the Instagram, HanksterChen. I just wanted to say yesterday, my icon and hero, Robin Williams, 1-year anniversary. I did a movie with him called The Angriest Man in Brooklyn.
Not a big deal.
It is now on Netflix for you to watch. My most recent TV credit, Baby Daddy, just aired on ABC Family, so go
Incredible.
BitTorrent that. And later, next month, I believe, an episode of Switched at Birth that I did on ABC Family will be coming out. So
I
just
didn't know. Oh my God.
so just expect me to pop up in random places.
I love it.
You're such a big deal.
No, I'm the Asian guy on all the white people shows. That's what I've realized, including this one.
Hey, I'm Jewish. I'm
Mazel.
so diverse.
Mazel.
Mazel. You can find me on social media at Becca Frucht, Twitter, Instagram. I don't have any credits with Robin Williams, unfortunately, but love him long time. Yes. Amazing. And so proud of you for that. That's really amazing.
So sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely find me on the social medias. And I hang out on TYT a fair bit. I'm kind of squatting right now. I'm just squatting.
And she is not paying rent, I'll tell you that right now.
One of my faves. All right, guys. You guys know where you can find me. Twitter at Ana Kasparian. And I just posted some cool Instagram pictures today, so you should probably follow me there too. Ana Kasparian, TYT. And I don't know, I do a bunch of shit. So just Google me.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing your ideas. And remember, never be afraid to make your point.
He's a misogynist. The kind of language he was using is so petty. Her little script and her.
Yeah.
It's not even interesting misogyny. At least be creative.
Well, he can't be creative, which is why when he gets into Twitter feuds, his #1 comeback is, "You're a dummy."
It's
so
so
weak
lame.
in every way.
It's just baseless, hateful, backwards prejudice, and he is trying to trump up a superficial news cycle.
Yes.
And anyone with half a brain is going to be able to tell that
Now,
that's what he's doing.
Now, Hank, are there any redeeming qualities? Make your point.
Oh my God, entertainment value is out of control. Like this, I mean, he's gotten me interested in politics again, really, because I can't believe that this is gonna go on until November of next year.
Right.
And let's be honest, everyone knows that he's not going to win the presidency. So I'm really like, hang on, Trump, stand there for as long as you can, because I think he's getting a whole new generation of voters to get in just
Megyn Kelly did respond to him, and he did try to clarify what he meant through a tweet. He tweeted regarding Megyn Kelly, quote, "You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever." Apparently he meant to say nose, which I'm not buying for a second. Just got on with thought. Now, Megyn Kelly does not want to apologize to him for her hard-hitting questions. She says, apparently Mr. Trump thought the question was unfair and I was attacking him. I felt he was asked a tough but fair question. We agree to disagree. I certainly will not apologize for doing good journalism. Becca, is she doing good journalism? Make your point.
Oh, I think she totally is. And as my boy Obama would say, the audacity of idiocy is what we're seeing with Donald Trump, who is a total chump. There is no question about it.
He's a dummy.
He's a dummy. He's a dummy. He's a flash in the presidential primary pan. And I think his 1% attitude is really not going to resonate with 99% of this country, even if they are currently amused by the sheer commitment to douchery that he exudes at all times. I mean,
Things. Take a look.
I don't have a lot of respect for Megyn Kelly. She's a lightweight. And, she came out there reading her little script and trying to, be tough and be sharp. And when you meet her, you realize she's not very tough and she's not very sharp. She's Zippo. Well, I just don't respect her as a journalist. So I have, she gets out and she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
So there's so much to discuss, but of course that very last part of his statement got the most press attention. He was trying to imply that she was on her period and she was being emotional. She was just asking you normal questions, especially considering the fact that you're trying to run for president of the United States. You should expect tough questions. So I find it very ironic that he calls Megyn Kelly a lightweight when he pretends as though he's a heavy hitter. You're not a heavy hitter. You're a piece of shit who can't answer a simple question about your own freaking platform. But I want to open this up to the panel. Before I get to that, though,
as Obama inspired a lot of people to register, whether they loved him or hate him, Trump is going to do the same, and it's always great for young people to get active in their politics.
The last presidential cycle or election cycle was boring. I mean, I was bored to tears with Obama as the incumbent and Mitt Romney as the boring Republican candidate. And so it is nice to be entertained, and I think more and more people are paying attention. So
they're like hate watching the debate
or love watching because he inspires a lot of passion one way or the other.
He inspires a lot of bigots, absolutely.
Sure.
All right, so here's the personal question for the story. What's the worst insult anyone has ever said to you? I'm actually going to start off with this. It's funny because the worst insult that I ever got now seems tame in retrospect. A guy once called me a cunt, and I was like, how dare you? And now it's like, really, cunt? Like, you can't come up with something better?
Yeah, girlfriend, take the term back. I think we should celebrate cunt. Yeah, I'm a fucking cunt.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it.
Yeah, so I don't even
See you
know.
next Tuesday.
Strong. Hello.
I think the worst insult is if someone says something about my family. But what's up? Welcome to The Point. I'm your host, Ana Kasparian, and I have two of my favorite panelists joining in today to talk about my disdain for Taylor Swift. We'll talk about that later on in the show, but we do have some important topics, including Donald Trump making an ass out of himself with his misogynistic comments toward Megyn Kelly. And then later on, we're going to talk about police officers using what could be considered a crafty strategy to get drug dealers to turn themselves in. Is it really crafty? That's up for debate. We will discuss it with our awesome panelists. So who are they? We have Hank Chen, who is an actor and comedian. Hank, good to have you back.
Great to be back.
And we also have Becca Frucht, who's a news correspondent and a regular fill-in on the TYT network. You guys should check her out this week on The Young Turks. All right, so let's get to the first topic. Donald Trump keeps digging himself in a deeper hole, and this time it has to do with misogyny. Well, during the first GOP debate of this presidential election cycle, apparently he didn't like the way Megyn Kelly asked him really tough questions. So as a result, he responded to her during an interview and said some pretty terrible